Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
Thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Episode 361 tonight. That's right, babies. I don't know why I just called you babies. I'm channeling Johnny Fever suddenly for some reason, unknown to me. Very excited for this as I've been blasting her new record all week, and we will get to that. Don't worry about it. But goddamn Marnie Stearns on Protonic Reversal, which is fantastic and a long time coming, if you ask me. Not that anybody did, but even if you didn't, I'll still say it. Very thrilled to talk to her about all things from the land of Marnia. And super stoked. It's going to be a good time. But before we do any of that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer that has been touring and recording for 23 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 361. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. And if you like the show, or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, and even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show, and it beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's just a darn nice thing to do, really. Which is kind of like the main reason to do it, I guess. But anyway, I'm really, really stoked. Comeback Kid is the name of the record. I've been blasting this SOB all week, and I just couldn't be more thrilled. I'm a big fan of this artist, and she always comes correct. And I'm very excited to bring you tonight Marnie Stern. Marnie, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Did you come correct? I just want to make sure.
I'm not incorrect.
Okay. That's almost more important, right? Dude, this record's rad.
Thank you.
Comeback Kid is the perfect title for it as well. Was there like literally anything else in contention, or was it just like, nope, that's absolutely it?
No, that's absolutely it.
Yeah, I mean, how could it not be?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a pretty... And it's funny to see the reaction of people being like, oh, wow, where's she been? It's like, well, you don't have a television, apparently.
Well, yeah.
Because for me, and in full disclosure, I had Sid on the show, about a year and a half ago, something along those lines, and we talked 8G pretty extensively. But I was always like, that's amazing. Like, it's great that like there's this opportunity to like basically play music for a living, but you're working on someone else's thing. You're like part of like a larger machine that's making the entertainment an entertainment machine. Am I wrong in
No.
assessing that way? Okay,
No.
yeah. So it's not your personal creativity, you know.
I mean, no. And it's like you're building, your goal is to support the star of the show.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and if you're not doing that, then I don't know. Maybe you're doing it wrong. It's sort of like, especially for someone that, and I think of you as someone that when I hear your records and songs, it's like immediate. I know who it is immediately. Mm-hmm. And not that it all sounds the same at all. It's just like, oh no, you've got certain distinctive things, and it's like, oh, hell yeah, I know who that is. But it's kind of a niche-y thing, right?
Totally.
So you're not tapping in big 70s power recording most of the time.
Right. And when I started working on the show, exactly, I had to undo all that kind of.
So I'm fascinated by that because how much of because it's playing music, but it's playing music in a way that is not the way that people who come up playing in bands usually do.
Oh yeah, totally not. We have in-ears and there's a playback of what we're going to hear. It's really more a performance visually than it is sonically because everything is mixed so low in the recording anyway. Like if you're watching it on TV, you got to really like put your ear in to see, to hear it. It's just kind of like a nice thing added on top of the show. Everything
else that's happening. And
exactly.
It's not even just being an ensemble within the show, but it's also being an ensemble with the band, right? Because the idea is ultimately like talk show bands, it's you're not trying. If you're putting the focus on the band, you're probably doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong. Totally.
And it seems like in a way that'd be kind of cool because then you don't have to like think about it too much. But another way, you're like, well, especially if you're coming from punk rock or whatever the hell it is,
totally.
It's not your first go-to mindset, I would imagine.
Well, also there are celebrities walking out, so that's a whole other thing where that took a long time to get used to.
What was one of the cooler celebrity sort of like, oh wow,
Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys was a really good one.
Hell yeah.
But that's a little more from like our world.
Yeah.
I got kind of like pulled the other way for a second, but it's like big celebrities are on the show, actors, and so it's really not about music at all.
Right, and that's. It's weird because you're in this world of like larger entertainment, and when there are music people involved, they're from this superstar echelon of just like, what does that have to do with what I do?
Yes,
not and that
like,
much.
Blake Shelton would be an example, like very big people from The Voice, like the musical people that would come on would be like that, and that's kind of. Was like so strange, but totally from a different world where I'm used to just playing in a small room with 150 people jumping around. So
and having that give and take, that immediate give and take, and I always discuss
totally.
On doing a performance on television, it's like even with a studio audience, like you're in this like terrarium practically.
And we would totally, and when we would do the warm up song for the audience, I would be like really, this is off camera. I'd be singing and playing and really going, like trying to get the crowd going. And they would just be sitting there. Maybe a couple people, but that's for 8 years, every single night. Like you'd come out, you just had to get used to them not responding.
But that's a normal reaction because they're not music people, right? They would maybe not be caught dead at one of your shows or like any show.
And they're like, what is this? Is this on the air? What are they? What's happening? Are we going now? Are we rolling? Am I going to be on camera? Like, they're just not.
Yeah. Unless you're a professional audience goer, you're probably not going to be familiar with like the metrics of all that.
Totally.
But yeah, it is because I mean, I've seen you play a bunch and like, it's a great show. And again, it's coming from that world of, you get that instant connection, that back and forth, even with the bigger shows, right?
It's funny you say that because now that I am playing shows again, I forgot how much that gives you. As soon as you feel the energy from the audience, it's like you want to give back to them.
It's that back and forth, right?
Totally.
It's that like especially when it's like hitting just right. It's like, oh my God, that's that's probably how people get addicted to stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
But you had such a long break from it,
yeah,
right? And that was, and again, it's not that you were like sitting around idle. You had plenty of life stuff going on too, but like it was it always in the back of your mind that like I'll get back to that when I get back to that, or did you have to kind of psych yourself up to do it?
Well, what's interesting is now people were saying, "Oh, I hadn't played a show in X amount of years," but to me, I really was the stress of performing to so many people or knowing so many people were watching every night. That was like a performance every single night, full hair, makeup, heels, outfits, clothes. So to me, I was like, "What do you mean I haven't played a show in 10 years? I've been playing a show every single night, but not." That kind. So this kind of performance was so much easier for me to go back to because I could just be casual.
Yeah.
And scream and sing, and everyone was singing the words at these shows, and it was like, oh my God, that's right.
You're doing your thing, and again, like what you articulating is like you're almost getting all the downsides of playing shows without actually the release of doing it.
It's true. Except, except a healthy paycheck.
Well, that's nice. I mean,
that's the other side of it. So and like the stability of, going home every day at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any of the high that you get from playing, your own music and like feeding off an audience and a tiny room or even a big cooler room. Like I just did these shows with Blonde Redhead and it felt so great.
I think that was one of my friend Matthew film guy, Matthew Weiss from he's on Majority Report and stuff. He went to one of those shows and I saw some video from it and I got the intel from him. He's like, it was great. I was like, okay, awesome.
It was so
that was
great.
The intel, by the way. That was great.
Thank you. Great.
The intel, great.
Oh good. Yeah, but like I'm really happy to be back doing it because it's on one hand really good to do a 9 to 5 for yourself to know that you can, because for that job there was, even though there were a lot of breaks and hiatuses and stuff, there was no being sick. Like
you had to play, right? Like rain or shine.
Yeah. Sick or not. And
yeah.
I had 2 pregnancies where I was nauseous for 6 months of the time, and I'd have like a puke bucket behind the amp. And I'd be on stage super like, oh God, I'd have to stare at the stage manager as my horizon. Like the whole show. I remember one show with Rachel Maddow and she was talking and I'm like, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. I'm going to throw up. Oh
man.
Yeah. But then just
doing the Mortal Kombat sway.
Yeah. And then going back the next day and the next one and the next one and the next one. And so that's good for a person to like, that made me less wimpy in some ways. Like, well, shit, if I could do that every night in front of all those people.
Yeah, show must go on, right?
The show must go on. Right.
That's the old saying for good reason.
Right.
And there's a lot of people. It's come up in the show a lot too. That during COVID and the lack of shows being played at all. That with the coming back and playing at all, it sort of feels like getting a lost limb back.
Totally.
So I can only imagine that even though you are playing, it's a completely different experience when you're doing your own music, you have your own band, and are with your peeps.
Yes, and the interesting thing about the show was that you would play this warm-up song, and everyone would be so excited, and then you'd play the intro song, the show song.
Yeah.
And then that was it for like 20 minutes.
And then sit around while the show happens.
Which is so opposite, which is so antithetical to a rock show where like once you come out, that's it. You're going for the next long period of time. So it was such a strange thing to then be like, okay. And now
it's like the aspect where you have to wait for the bass player to practice his stand-up routine while you change a string or something, right? Like that awkward thing at punk rock shows, but it's that's just baked into the whole experience
for like a long time. Yeah.
And it's in its way it must be incredibly rewarding, because then you get to have like a family life, right? Like you're not having to I mean, I know people that make it work, but they all have their systems, they all have their and some of them, peace and love, are doing it at a much higher level than I ever will, for sure.
And me, but like with pregnancy especially, it was nice to be home and to have good health insurance and to
That's real.
all of the real stuff was great, and still be able to come home and be with the kids and in the morning and then go to work and then come back and still be with them. I mean, granted, now I'm spending a lot more time with them, which is great too.
Yeah.
Um,
You can
But
be
yeah.
present. You can be present in their lives in a way that it's
Yes.
different than if you're, all right,
Working.
mommy's going out for 7 weeks.
yeah,
Catch you on the flip side.
see ya. Yeah. And then being exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah, and then come back like, I think I hate music. Or I love it. I can't tell.
Oh
Talk
my
to me
God.
tomorrow.
So many Europe tours I'd come back thinking I never want to go anywhere ever again. Like I don't need to go anywhere ever again. Like I don't even want to go to New Jersey. Like I don't want to travel. And then it like, of course, as the years go by,
Like, but if I did, and then you start asking those questions of
Exactly.
like it'd be kind of
Exactly.
cool to do,
exactly.
it wasn't so bad being
Yes.
in blank.
Yes.
And,
Oh, it was really pretty in Switzerland. Yeah.
yeah. And then next thing you know, you're off to the races for the next one. But yeah, and it's so what did okay? So I want to get into the record, but I mean, with you've had different iterations of the band. How did this iteration of the band come together?
So it's all the band that I'm playing with, or the
currently, yeah.
Well, I had to look for people to play with, like so.
That kind of blows my mind, by the way. But I want you to talk about that because I think that's amazing. Because people look at you as
I really don't have that. I mean, I do know that. I'm friends with Sid, and I mean, I have like 3 or 4. Am I breaking up here? I have like 3 or 4 close music friends, and then not really. Like I've met and know of lots of people, but I would feel weird writing to them. But so anyway, friends of friends connected me with different people to play with.
because you're not out and seeing new bands. You're not playing with bands. You're not out. You're in this other world that is involved with music, but in a much different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so for the actual record, we had played with different drummers every week. There was a different drummer that we played with, which that was like the craziest, greatest experience to hear the different feel of every drummer and play their songs. And so Jeremy Garr from Arcade Fire, who was friends with Sid, he came in and he played with us a bunch of times, and he's so nice. And he was like, yeah, I'd love to play drums on your record. And I was like, what? So
well, it's not what you would think of when you think of that band.
No, and
it's not what I would think of. I'll put it on me.
Well, also, I went to see him play at Madison Square Garden, and it was just this immense, amazing show, and so it was very, it was wonderful. And then the drums that he put down, I couldn't believe how great they were.
He's a secret shredder. Yeah.
Right. He's a secret shredder. Right. You said it.
Because I was listening to I was like, who the hell's playing drums on this? This is badass.
I know.
And it's like, oh, damn. It's that dude? Wow. Okay.
Right.
My bad, y'all.
So then going and having to find people to play with who can replicate the drums is difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I asked friends of friends, and that's basically how I met people to play with. So I've been playing with this guy, John Ganelli, who's a great guitar player, and he was in the band Rye Coalition.
Rye Coalition. Yeah. Oh,
he's amazing.
I was just talking to Dave. That's funny.
He's got a really good feel, and he's a great player. He has a great stage presence. He's awesome. He's about to have a baby. And this drummer, I was playing with Nick Ferrante, who's really good, who was in we're live. The Hollies, not Holly Golightly, but the Black Hollies.
Black Hollies, yeah. Oh yeah, they're awesome. Yeah.
And then, this drummer Max, who I met through, oh my God, my brain, through Golden. I want to say their record label to this guy Dan at, oh my God, I'm gonna die, but he's amazing, and he knows Zach Hill's music, and so he started playing with me because Nick broke his hand, and et cetera, and so we've just kind of gone through this like strange iteration of bunch of shows.
Yeah, you're putting together a band. I mean, it's just like stuff happens. It's
totally
that's the way it happens. Wow, that's wild. Okay, that's so. But it's interesting that it seems like it came together from an outside perspective. It seems like it came together relatively easy and quickly, though. It wasn't like there was a lot of struggling, at least that I saw. But I mean,
so easy. We just went in a couple times. I'm not fussy about stuff, so we just practiced like 3 times and then we're off.
It's funny too, and you mentioned it, that like different players can just change a song so much, like just with how they play, right? I mean, it that can be exciting and that can be incredibly scary at the same time, depending on your adventure level, I suppose.
Yes, and I think it's like a trust that you have to like make sure they don't go too far off the path,
right?
But not stay so rigid. Like go with more feel of like I don't care about having it sound literal to the record. It's more about just feeling, keeping the energy up, and let's rock. But I don't want it completely different than.
Yeah. It's suddenly it's
right.
Someone's doing like Motown breakdowns during like a really aggressive part. Like, I mean, I'm sure that's great, but it's not going to really work the way that you might want it to. It might sound awesome. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll sound awesome. I don't know. What do I know from it? But it's a balance beam, right? You want to
balance beam.
You want to serve the player, but you also want to serve the song. And
yes.
I mean, how much of a whiplash is it like working in your own band again when you've been basically doing this completely different musically oriented thing for years?
It's the show part. The band part is good and easy and fluid and nice and normal. It's the like venues. It's like very weird memories coming.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
Except this time I'm like going with my husband and children, and we're like driving to DC in our minivan, and it's like, oh, okay, well, let's see if we can catch the Washington Memorial before we have to load into the venue.
Trying to like get in some like cool like Atlas Obscura stuff. Yeah.
And then like the lighting guys are putting the spotlight down on the floor for the kids to try and like chase each other on the floor.
That's
like,
awesome.
Awesome.
That sounds great, by the way. I'd do that. Yeah.
Except we like get back to the hotel at 2 a.m, and then the kids wake up at 6:45 and it's real.
No, that is as real as it gets, I'm sure. Yeah, like it's well, that's what I was gonna say, because I know that like a lot of folks that whether they're reunited or bands or just people that never stop, especially if they have young kids, is like they're sitting there like yawning at like like right when the support band goes on, and it's like,
there's no nap, there's no rest. I mean, for them or for me. So and then as it repeats, the kids are getting crankier and crankier because they're not getting great sleep, and then they're moody, things like that. So on one hand, it's great to experience it with them, or at least have them see me in this other different light, because they just don't really understand, or now they understand what I do. So that part's amazing. Yeah. But it's a lot more tiring than it was before them.
I mean, it's an entirely different world of responsibility, right? Know what I mean?
Yes.
As if there isn't enough stuff to like concern yourself with and to have on your mind. You have this whole other thing.
Yes.
Did they ever? Were they interested in the show at all? Did they come to the?
Yeah, they all at the Blonde Redhead shows. The crew like set up in front of the blockade, like little stools for them. I thought they would have like a 3-minute span, whole show blasting. They wouldn't put earplugs in, just kind of looking at me. I was looking at them the whole show. It was crazy. It was great.
That kind of rules, like, because you never know it's gonna land, right? You're like, all right.
I know, and they're like 5 and 7, so I don't even think they really will remember it. Maybe they will. I don't know, but
if they do, that's gonna be an awesome memory. And yeah, you're getting it before they're like gonna turn jaded, and anything that you do is gonna be the worst thing ever. You know.
That's right. That's right.
Don't worry, that's on the way.
It's coming. I feel it coming. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're pulling stuff for the set list, is it all stuff? Is it all comeback hit stuff at this point, or are you pulling old songs out as well?
Yeah, it's like half old, half new, and more. I'd say like 4 or 5 new songs.
Okay.
And those are the hardest for me. You know, the old songs, even though I hadn't played them live in so long, you know, it's like muscle memory.
It's yeah. It's like riding a bike, right? You know.
So those are like, I don't need to practice these.
Yeah.
But the new ones have been taking more. You know, there's a lot of crazy tapping parts in some of them where I'm like really trying to. Now that I have another guitar player, I'm like really trying to execute all, because usually I used to play with a bass player.
Yep.
So I'm really trying to like execute all the parts really well, and sing at the same time. So, but it's fun. Like, it's all very fun.
Yeah, and it's something where, I mean, you're not just sitting there like, you know, peace and love, not just sitting there like playing a pretty song with some cowboy chords, you know.
I honestly think if it was like peace and love like that, I would get too nervous and not be able to do a set. Like, I have to be totally, there's so much, I'm doing so much that I can't even stop to like observe my situation. I'm like, okay, now I'm playing, singing, playing, singing, singing, playing, singing, playing. Hello, great. Okay, clap, clap, clap. Oh, talk, talk, talk. Okay, playing, singing, playing. It's
right.
a real exhausting 45 minutes. So at the end, I'm like, oh, okay.
But then you also have the physical response of having like the amplifiers and like, you know, the live drums and everything behind you. You know, you get the give and take of the energy. I mean, it seems like the best parts of that are gonna snap right in, but then there's still gonna be like a few things like, oh, this part, oh yeah, because
oh yeah, especially with the new songs when I'm like, wait, whoops, that's supposed to happen 6 times, it happened 5 times,
right,
you know, but we just keep rolling through it.
Yeah, well, and that's part of the thing that happens of like the record coming before like the shows, right? It's like oh,
totally.
I thought that would be an easier part to play, and it does not seem to be the case.
Yes, and yes. Yes, and also like remember, totally. Remembering the part, and then this comes here, and wait, my singing does this here? I thought it does this here.
Yeah.
Especially because like once I finish the song, I don't listen to it really anymore.
Right.
So, and don't like to hear my voice or re-listen to the recording. So when we were going into practice, the guys were like, so this happens like 3 more times. So I kept saying it does. And they're like, it's your song. I'm like, I guess.
Oh man, yeah.
You know, like
this is painfully familiar.
If you say like, so.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
We can do it that way. Okay.
Whatever's clever, sure, yeah. Well, and you're in a situation too where you don't have like even songs that you played songs you played a million times before. You're always going to be able to be like, all right, let's just see what's going on. Then your hands find their way to where it's supposed to go, and you're like, cool, right on, you know.
Yes.
And if you don't have that for the new tunes, you have to, I would imagine it might be a fight to like academically get out of your head a little bit, right?
Yes. And so you're exactly right. And so with all the news, like on the set list, I noticed every time it was a new song, I was like, okay, here we go. Yeah, exactly. Because it's more, the others are more just muscle memory, and this is in my head more. Now this comes now I sing here, and now I play this. Yeah, but that'll, within a month, that'll be gone once we start playing more shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something. It's just that real awkward time you have to be like, well, I know how this goes, and let's
Isn't that
see
funny?
if it goes.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? And I guess for everyone too who's playing it, because they haven't played it either before.
Right.
That's so funny. Yeah.
So even if it's like the hits or whatever, then it's still going to be new to them, and so you're going to be like, oh, that's
Right.
You're playing like that, huh? All
Right.
All right.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to speak a little bit. So I want to go through the record. I think it's great. First of all, it's one of my favorites of the year. So if I haven't been clear about that, let me officially go on record.
Thank you.
And I'm glad it came out in time for me to make the year-end records. People put together these year-end lists, and it's like November. It's like, what are you doing? Like, the year is not over yet. Like, what are you doing? Like, I listen to more stuff than most people, and I'm like, I just don't understand.
Well, first of all, how do you find everything?
I mean, okay, so that is actually a great question, because I feel like personal recommendations are like the only way to find out about anything now. I have the advantage of this show, and then also going out and playing myself. That like not only do we play with other bands, I'll see someone who I respect on the road, and they're like, oh man, have you heard that new blah 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 blah? And I'm like, no, I got to check it out. But I know that for a lot of people, they have a heart, especially folks that are getting older. Technically, we're all getting older, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
That if they don't have that conduit, then they feel like out of touch, or worse, that they suddenly claim, well, there's no good music anymore. It's like, yeah, there's plenty of good music. You just got to dig for it harder.
Yeah. But why would you have to dig for it harder if everything is so accessible?
Well, because it's a fire hose, right? And the human mind is not meant to be this engaged with literally everything all the time, all at the same volume. And I think that for every Freak Factor 9 event that happens that kind of gets over, that like deserves to be there, there's like a bunch more that will never see the light of day to anyone, and then a bunch more that even more of all of that that's just like somewhere in the middle. Like maybe you'll see it, maybe you don't. I mean, the new thing is like you'll play a show in a city, and then like 2 days later, people will see it on the internet. It's like, great. Hey, when are you coming to so and so? Just played it last week, man.
Whoa.
And I talked about that with Brian Cook from Russian Circles and Sumac and all that. And like I mean, it's a personal pet peeve of mine, but everyone I know is like experiencing it, and no one's talking about it. Except for on this show, Marnie. This show is the only one. I'm breaking the news. But it's crazy because we have all this communication. And we have all this like, we're connected to everyone, but none of the needs of the individual are being served, this connection. And nobody is really like...
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. It's just this big, thin, gray rule.
It is so bizarre to be back in the world after so long of being away.
Yeah.
And first of all, everything's moving so much faster. Like a press day moves faster than I can't even believe it. I don't know if it's that I guess there's more music now. I mean, but
it's easier to get music in front of people without an operation behind you. But there's also like, I feel like indie PR is like become a thing, whereas like it was a thing before, but it was like, no, you're pretty much releasing your record to your cat if you don't have a PR campaign.
Right.
Now,
Right. But I mean, the whole thing is totally crazy.
But then who's looking at these? I mean, I'm lucky enough that people listen to this show, right? And that people get something out of the show. I'm glad for it. That's why I continue to do it. But the avenue for this show being what it is, that was 10 years. Like, and like, I'm going to tell you that like for the first 6 or 7, audience was not as big.
Yeah.
And so how do you like get over the...
Well, everything's crazy.
Hose?
Everything's crazy with, Spotify, all of it, that consumption, it's become a non-business business. The music industry, there is no profit for the musician, but somebody's making a ginormous profit.
It's all these walled gardens, and it's content for them is what it is. Like you're sharecropping. You're sharecropping for things like Spotify and whatnot.
Yes.
And it's one of the reasons why, like, when it used to be like a record comes out, it's like you can still be talking about it 6 months later and still new to people. And now it's
Right.
like, oh, it's 6 days later now. Like if you're
Right.
lucky, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, which is sucks. It's just wild. And for me, you know, like I make this weird music, so I've never expected to really make any money off of it. I never really have. I've never expected to be popular, but I do think just in general, it's very depressing to think that all of these artists are creating these things and they're just like not able to live at all off of any profits from it.
It's like, I mean, look, if you want to get into that, I mean, it's sort of like I joke, and it's less of a joke than a reality, that you have to have like a traveling Etsy store with you with like new stuff, like literally like every time. I'm not even kidding, and that's the only way I can make it work. And I'm like, it's exhausting. It's completely exhausting because you're like sitting there like
You mean because there's so much content everywhere that people will just switch to the next?
Yeah. So, but if you engage with them, like if you're at the show and you're like, oh, there's a new T-shirt design, oh, there's a new whatever, then people engage with it. But then so that just ties into this mindset that they've been pushing of like the constant newness of like everything has to be new. It has to be, this came out this week, this came out at this time. You're making like something, whether you want to be or not, that's ephemeral, even if you're making something of record.
Interesting.
And I don't know, and I'm sort of like just telling you my worldview now, but it's crazy because I don't see a good in for it, but I don't see a way out of it at this point either, other than to tell everyone to slow down. You know, and nobody wants to hear that because everything's got to be faster, everything's got to be growing all the time.
Yeah, even though there's no way to really make anything great in 5 seconds, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? You're getting so. All right, so look at something like Netflix, right? Who for years and years they decided, hey, we don't need to make things that are great. We just make things that are just good enough.
Right.
It's good enough. It's fine.
Right.
It's
Right.
fine.
Right.
So what you get is like, okay, now there's all this stuff that's just fine, and people are like, man, Netflix kind of blows.
Yeah, why isn't there? I kept saying, like, why isn't there like a good Netflix? Like, a good Netflix would be great if there was like some good shows that, yeah.
And they'll do things like, oh, you liked Game of Thrones. Here's some other medieval stuff, you giant idiot. You know, like, okay, well, I didn't say I wanted anything with like a sword and a dragon in it. Like, that wasn't what I said. I was interested in this one thing, you know?
Yeah, I wonder where it's going to go. I don't know. You're right. It's just content. It's all about, like you're saying,
more.
It's like all about more and not anything about the content.
Well, it used to be like sorry to interrupt, but like 10 years ago, right? Like, you know, when you did like Chronicles. By the way, Chronicles of Marnie has to be an all-time favorite album title. FYI.
Thank you. It was
like
an old boy. It was an old boyfriend who said it. He said, because Chronicles of Narnia was out, the movie, and he said, "How about Chronicles of Narnia?" And I said, "Oh,
yeah, that's amazing." This.
Thank you.
Chef's kiss. But at that time, it was sort of okay. There was all these kind of like very quiet, pretty, consonant indie rock bands, or indie rock. They didn't really do much rocking, frankly, and that was like the big thing. But at least people could concentrate on one thing for more than 3 seconds too.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy that I've been away for so long from the whole thing. No, it's very
Spotify
strange.
wasn't even a thing, you know? Yeah.
It's very strange to step back in.
Oh, by the way, here's my T-shirt.
Win, and I knew. I love it. Yeah, I keep asking. I mean, obviously nobody knows what's going to happen, but it just, you think it can just keep going on like this, where more. I mean, there's got to be a generation that comes that the next one's going to, I mean, it's like there's overload. I worry about my kids.
Are they going to get like brain implants? Is like, you know, have like stuff beamed directly into their consciousness or subconsciousness? That's getting Cronenberg-y.
But my kids are very comfortable sitting with like a radio on, the TV low, a pad, like all of this shit going on around them. And I mean, they're 5 and 7, so that's like, I don't know.
They got that constant. Yeah, I don't. That's not for me. but that's becoming like an old school mentality, right? Like that's like a peak Gen X
Not
thing.
only is it not for me, like I can't concentrate. I can't take anything in. I can't. I actually can't do it. So listen, I'm into lots of layers and lots of noise and lots of weird stuff, as you know from my songs. Like lots of weird stuff happening at once. But
yes,
I cannot do that, and I don't think like, how the playlists have been explained to me with Spotify, where it's like chilling with mom on Sunday afternoon playlist and like cooking with my hubby, like all about mood and not about.
Yeah. It's vibing. It's vibing. There's a lot of vibing going on where it's
that
like
is bad.
Where it used to be like, oh yeah, like that was like something you did once in a while. That wasn't like your whole like your whole thing.
Your identity is no identity. It's just like sounds coming at you, but I mean, it's very bizarre to me because for me, do you remember when the iPods were happening and it was like you wanted to have as much on your iPod as possible? Like,
yes. I got the biggest one specifically for that purpose. Yes.
Yes, and you wanted to have as many songs and as many bands that you listened to that you knew of that were like, and that was like, part of your identity.
This is a desert island record. I have to have it. This is my jam. I got to have it. Yeah, absolutely.
All gone now. All gone.
Yeah, yeah. And now, look, I still have I have the library. I don't have the iPod anymore. My old drummer spilled a beer on it and it died. Which I was like, really? But that is one thing it would be interesting if that came back, and not necessarily the iPod, but sure, why not? But like the music player that like where you have a chosen library of stuff that you put on. Now they're never going to do it because selling music is like now everyone rents their music now. Everyone is perfectly fine with just paying a service and renting their music because they get everything.
I know, and I find it very difficult on Apple Music. I'm not an Apple whatever subscriber where it's renting, and I find it so difficult now. I keep trying to buy things, and they make it difficult. They're like,
they make it so hard. Yes, and it pisses me off.
They make it really hard. Even if it's just an MP3, they're like, but subscribe for
but you can just subscribe and listen to it right now. No, but I don't want that. I don't want that.
But I did was on Spotify the other when we were coming back from one of the shows, which I have never done. So it wasn't like I wasn't signed up.
Yeah.
I still don't even understand how I was doing this, but I was like, so I was like, well, let me see, let me check it out. And I started just typing in like old bands and things would come up, and then it just played. And then I played another and another and another. I was like, this is fucking crazy. I sound like a senior citizen, but I was like, this is wrong. This feels like illegal because it is fucking illegal. Like, this is not right. Like, what the fuck? I'm just playing it, like not even getting a little taste. I'm just playing every song for free. Like, it felt like, well, this is totally crazy.
Well, and it's there's no way anything that has that much availability of all music for all time could be ethical. There's no way it could be founded in fairness. It's impossible. It is an impossible proposition that they sold to the populace.
And if those old fuckers like Joni Mitchell and Bruce Springsteen, and if people did that to their music and they didn't sell their catalogs, they'd be up in arms, and the musicians should have had some kind of union together like the movie people do, and they could have stopped it or could stop it, but it's just like, oh, well, this is the way it is now.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just roll over about it. Okay, well, no.
Yeah.
By the way, it's a bit of a callback now because it was a while ago, but lots of weird stuff happening all the time would be a great genre descriptor for your band or any band really, because I found that to be delightful. And it's weird that so now there's a whole generation that's coming up with like, well, this is just the way it is. Like it's sort of like so they don't have that deep attachment and deep connection. I mean, I'm talking back even going, and this comes up a lot on this show. Where you would buy a record based on the artwork. We're like, that looks crazy. What's that going to sound like? I don't know. Let's check it out.
Oh, I like this label, and these are the bands on this label. I guess I'm going to buy these and see if I like them. I mean, I'm not saying that's great because sometimes you bought stuff that you didn't like, but
Oh yeah, sometimes it's horrible, but or did not fit your taste at the time. Maybe is the more diplomatic way to put it.
But the thing is, the things were yours when you bought them. They were yours, so they helped shape you as who you are, and that's why I'm interested to understand if something's on just playing in the background for somebody as vibes. How do they help to define themselves, things they like, things they don't like? Is it not about music and movies and the arts? Is it about other things? Like, I'm curious about that.
It's a fantastic question, and we're probably not going to be able to sort it out on this show, but I think that people need to be asking that more rather than just being like, well, we're riding this train and this is the way that we want things to be now. Is it? Because not everyone signed up for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still listen to records, I still listen even when like there's all this ability to not do that. I make a top records of the year list every year.
You and a bunch of other people do that too, but
a bunch of other nerds. Yes, I know, Marnie.
But me too. But I think it's obviously it's dying, and I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens, but something will have to flip because there's no way that you can have an entire industry where I really do think at some point, like the more successful people who are making the bigger money are going to say, wait, where's my bigger piece of money? This is wrong.
Yeah, and that would be nice. But also we have to realize, too, that at some point, culturally, we surrender to the algorithm, right? We're like, okay, there's this opaque...
Don't say that.
It's true, though, because there's like, okay, well,
what does it mean exactly? Explain to me what that means.
So think about, all right, if you think about social media, how are you seeing what you're seeing? Well, it isn't just the people that you follow or the bands or artists or filmmakers that you follow. You're seeing things in a certain order.
Like if I linger on someone making a grilled cheese sandwich, then they're going to put another.
Like, oh, you like grilled cheeses, huh? Here's like, grilled cheese guy, and here's like the grilled cheese gal, and here's like, I hate grilled cheese, just because we want to get that hate click in.
Yeah.
And then like, so you have these predictive computing that tries to figure out what you want to see. Whereas for me, what I want to see is literally the things I follow.
Right, me too.
Doesn't seem like that should be that bold of a concept, right? I mean, it seems like it'd be pretty easy.
That's why I follow them. Yeah.
That's why I follow them. Let's get like the clapping in there. Absolutely, right? But it has been decided that like, well, if you make it into the algorithm, then you can also sneak in a couple ads, and you can sneak in like this and that here and there. Because remember, if you aren't paying for a product, you are the product.
Yeah.
And that's the case with a lot of us. So by that same token, for something like Spotify, which if you don't want it to like do the like, we're just going to play some other stuff after this too, which is like whatever that we've decided we're going to push. Some people are like, that's great. I'm lazy and I don't feel like pushing buttons. Okay, well, cool. But what you're doing is you're surrendering to an algorithm that is choosing things for you rather than making your own choices based on like, hey, I think that, a person whose taste I respect X talked about this band, I want to check that out. And person whose taste I respect Y talked about this and another band, I want to check that out. Like the natural, informed knowledge holder that you trust, that there's that trust. So there's, instead of being trusted sources, it's like, just whatever. There's be something along soon enough that you'll like, I guess, which is something I have strong opinions on, obviously.
Yeah, you're right, though. But you're right. But you're totally right. Like, it makes no sense. Why would, I get why they're scrambling it up, but I guess it would take a lot of effort to go find the people that you follow, not just the people that they're putting in your feed but honestly, I hate to sound, but
it sucks. It should be better.
Until this record, I've spent very little time on social media
because it's like it existed, but it didn't exist in the way where it's like there weren't people going to Facebook every day to start their day,
right? But it also
TikTok or whatever the hell it is now.
It also for the past decade wasn't really doing anything for me. Like, I guess maybe for food videos, but who cares? You know, like
Right.
I said, like okay, for like maybe 1 minute out. You know, I was lucky that it just wasn't. I didn't need it at all in my life.
That is lucky. Yeah.
But I see now that I am doing the record and had to be online more. All of a sudden, I'm like, wow, wait, what am I doing on Instagram? Wait, I'm on Instagram again.
Yep.
Wait, I'm on Instagram again, which I never was.
And when this episode's up in the general feed, I'll tag you and I'll like be like, and you're like, oh great, let me like repost that and whatever.
Right.
Like it's part of the process now.
And I
right?
repost, and then I see someone else says something, and then I go look at them, and then
It's like,
I
oh,
see
who's this?
that,
What are they up to?
Oh,
Yeah.
did we play a show together one time? Maybe we did. Oh, what was that thing called? Right, yeah.
And you're down the rabbit hole is what it is.
Well, let me tell you, this is has nothing to do with, I always do this, but I've been listening to this Barbra Streisand biography.
Okay. Like an audiobook or something?
Yes. It's 48 hours long. I have to put the speed up to 1.4 because her regular talking is so goddamn slow, where she talks like this. And so it's like a little bit sped up. She sucks. I want to like her. She sucks. I mean, I'm still listening. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah.
I'm just thinking about the old school, and she just was not appreciative of all the things that came her way so young.
I think a lot of people that are very privileged people don't. And I think like when you come up from dirt, like you're just like, wow, does anything happen at all? Great.
Right. But it's also like, it's also how you choose to look at it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I had this friend, best friend, and she used to say, like, for everything, look at the good parts about the thing, not the bad parts. Look at the things that you have, not the things that you don't have. And that is like when I would say, you know, whoever I'd be dating, they're this and this. And she'd say, but everybody has flaws. The next person you're with, you're going to have a whole bunch of flaws with them. So like focus on the things that are good about them. And like, that really is true.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, look, yeah, like we're all works in progress, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, so you can make a choice of like, all right, I'm going to double down on dickery, or
That's right.
You know, I'm going to try to appreciate what's cool about this.
Yeah.
Getting back to the subject of how people discover music, how I discovered you is, so I played shows. I don't think I've ever talked about this on this show, but my old band played shows with Zach Hill pre and during Hella.
No.
Yeah. So that's
In Oakland?
Yeah, Oakland, Sacramento, like that's a place in California. Like to the point that like I remember, oh, Zach's got a new band.
No.
Yeah. So, and for some reason, I've never even once thought of emailing him to have him be on the show until I just said that aloud right now. But what I heard is like, oh, Zach's playing with this chick, and she's awesome. And I was like, wow, well, that's got to be cool because if Zach's playing with someone, it's gonna be cool. But I had no idea.
Let me tell you, when I went to California to record with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought just by proxy of being near him that it was going to give me some kind of massive cred, because
I mean, it did with me, but you know, whatever. You're not going to build a career off of what I like.
Like just because he was so good that I remember thinking, this is amazing. And he's like the best. Now, but you were young then. He was young, super young. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we were all 7 years old. Yes.
Yeah. Were they like house shows?
Yeah, we played at a cafe with Hella once. Played like Star Club, I think, if I remember right. I can't like a few, which is back, by the way. You know, like we played a few times, like, and it was like, I was like, they're great. I was like, oh, cool, another band that like I like, awesome.
It's
like, wow, that drummer's amazing.
To me, that band was my idol band of all bands. I mean, I listened to Hold Your Horses a billion times.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that was like the parts were intentional, could be recreated, and were like
it wasn't improv.
yes,
Right? Yeah, that's the thing. It was like and that's
parts.
I gotta tell you, first time I saw him, I was like, wow, that was cool. It's like jazz or something. I saw him again, like,
Yeah.
oh wait, no, that's like
Yeah, that they repeat again and again and again. That's the part. That's like the real thing. The thing that I liked about them, that I couldn't believe that the parts were so intricate for
Yeah.
both drums and guitar, and that they could do it again. Like, oh,
it's repeatable.
repeatable. Because it's not repeatable. Like, I would sit down and try and figure it out. I mean, really complicated stuff. And when we went to record, I was like, okay, so I want it to be like Hello, where you like follow every note. And he was like, no. And I was like, yes, you have to follow every note. I do. And he was like, no. And I had to beg in certain parts to be like, follow this part. And he was like, okay.
Was he just not? Was he like, no, you don't want to do that? He just was like not into it.
Well, one, it was like Hella's thing. And two, I think he thought that for the songs that maybe it would distract.
It'd be too much.
Yeah, it would be too much.
It would be like academic decathlon playing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
No, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. But yeah.
And so that's all the stuff that the in advance of a broken arm, like that.
Yes,
stuff, right?
and then we did the next one, and
This Is It, and the yada yada yada, all that.
And the This Is It was like the smoothest, fastest one. That was when I was like a little more confident, because we had done the first one, and I was like in my groove and felt like, okay, I can do this. And I was just like churning out so much material. And then we went and we did it like pretty quick in like 2 weeks. And then,
because it's a thing. Like there's the like, well, I guess we're gonna do a thing, and then you're like, oh, now there is this thing that exists, and now we're going to do the thing that is the next part of that.
Yes. And and he is great and so creative, and so I mean, I do miss him. Like, I don't see him, I don't hang out with him, because all this time has gone by, and like we kind of on Instagram, I'll say like little comments and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, I spend so much time looking up to his discipline. His discipline is crazy.
His discipline is like, I would say monk-like, but that's not even, doesn't begin to.
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. If he was a monk, he would have been a good one. That's right. A devoted one.
Yes, he's devoted to the craft for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in a way that people want to see, they only see the results. They don't see the effort. It's like, no, you like, man.
Oh yeah. And I was like, hey, what's up? And he was like, are you taking this seriously? I said, why? Because of my bubbly way. He was like, yeah. Like, this is serious. Let's do this. I was like, yeah, I got it.
That's hilarious. Well, it's such a different mindset too. It's like that's, it can be a staunch character and take care of business, but also have a good time too.
Right. Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And I feel like and I like both those records. I feel like the 2010, the self-titled one, that one for me was like I spent a lot of time with that record.
Oh.
That was one that I spent a lot of time with. Tell me about that one.
I feel like I still have yet to write a song that I want to write. Like, every time I sit down, I want to write something that I hear like on my classic rock station. Not a classic rock song, but like one of those songs that is great and that sits with you and that you have forever, and that anytime you hear, you're like, this is real. I still never feel like my stuff is real. I still am. That's part of why I keep writing, is because every time I sit down, I'm like, this is it. Today's the day. I'm going to write the anthem, the song, the one. And I think that third record was kind of like even more going away from that, where I was just kind of giving in to my feelings and not so focused on like writing the good song. I think.
Writing your More Than a Feeling or your Boys Are
Yes,
Back in Town.
yes,
or...
yes. If I could have written Boys Are Back in Town, why couldn't?
Yeah. I mean, that would be nice, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, the song that everyone knows. Like, oh yeah, fuck yeah.
That's what I mean. I mean, we know. I guess people don't know it now, but like, what a fucking awesome song.
Well, and like AC/DC have 20 of those
amazing.
songs. Right?
I'm with you, and I love every single one of them. And sometimes, like, I'm doing interviews, and I'm like, well, if I could write like one of the AC/DC anthems, they're like, really? I'm like, yes, really,
yes, really, and you would love it because even if you don't understand, if you don't understand that frame of reference or why people would engage with that band, you would like the art. Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. Like it's sort of like mentioning Kiss is fraught, right? It's like, okay, yeah. So sure, Gene Simmons, I don't know, it seems like he might be a bummer in some ways as a human being.
Too much tuna. Yeah.
But you're telling me Detroit Rock City doesn't kill?
No, it does, and it does. And for me, the key is, this sounds crazy, but from 15 until now, when I'm getting dressed and putting my makeup on and getting ready to go out.
Sure.
And those songs are playing, and I'm all revved up. I mean, I can mentally track my whole timeline, being in college, being a teenager, college, post-college, 20s, 30s. Now, always those songs coming on and just thinking, I must write one of these. I can do it. Desperately wanting to write one of these amazing songs. So that's why I keep going. Yeah.
All right.
Don't you feel like that?
Oh, yes. I mean, I feel like I've got. It's like you get close, and then it's like that's not what I was thinking, but that is really cool. And then you just,
totally.
Sometimes people agree, and sometimes people don't.
And also when you sit down, when you sit down to do the actual thing, it always deviates to go somewhere else. Always. But I know that I can still do it. So.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, because the self-titled record, I feel like there is, for lack of a better term, that's where I started to hear some of the classic rockisms.
Yeah, interesting.
Especially with something like Nothing Left, right? I feel like in a way it almost hits a classic Who song or something.
Yes.
Without sounding anything like the Who.
Yes, but crazily enough, I listened to the Who a lot and wanted to sound like the Who. So I appreciate that. But what's odd is nobody really, I mean, I understand it, but I don't think a lot of people really appreciate or like classic rock, especially now, at all anymore. So, or even Sid was telling me that every few months we get a new group of interns, and they were all freshmen or sophomores, around that age at college.
Yeah.
So this is a decade of people just every few months rotating, and they're the same age. We keep like McConaughey. We keep aging, and they stay the same. And every time they would come in, we would ask questions do you know who have you ever heard of Bob Dylan? I've heard of him, but I've never heard a song. Do you know who Bruce Springsteen is? Not really. Do you know who? And those, I'm okay. But Sid said the other day, he was have you ever heard of Radiohead? And the person was no.
Yeah.
Now that one.
That's kind of a mind blower, right? Especially when it's
Don't you think that's surprising or no?
Well, I think that culturally, I mean, it's not surprising that we know of it, because there's a point where that last cultural flashpoint of this universal experience of having a band that everyone knows where they were when they heard OK Computer or Kid A, when Kid A came out. It was but those cultural flashpoints aren't generally through music anymore. And people don't have those other, I don't know, TikTok. What do I know from it? I mean, so there are things that people will remember and remember fondly, where I'm oh yeah, I kind of remember that, and then that's important to them. But I will say specifically, and this has come up in the show a lot, stuff from the 2000s has been memory hold. Period. which is
Really?
crazy to me, where it's sort of like, well, there was like a lot of cool stuff that was happening, right? Like, I don't know like why nobody knows anything about it, but like it's really strange, and I don't understand why it's that era specifically.
Why? Like,
I
what
don't know.
else? Give me another example. Like, what else?
I mean, we mentioned Sid. Les Savvy Fav. It's like, I'm like, how are the kids not freaking out about like the fact that Les Savvy Fav has played a couple shows? Like, because to me, it's like, oh, that's like,
I know.
Maybe like a couple clicks down from Fugazi.
And they
know?
and they were around forever. Like, and they've
Yeah.
been around since like 1999 or 7 or whatever, like a long, long time. So you would think that's
But then it's like, how does anybody find out about anything now, though? And that comes back to the earlier conversation, right? Like, I don't know. So what I've realized is that, like, trusted sourcing is so weird now, because it used to be like, oh, here's a zine. I read the zine, and when they say, like, all right, Chunkle's a good example, right? If Henry likes something, wow, he doesn't like anything. But he loves like the things that he loves. So it's like, you knew that it's worth checking out if Henry's into it. And I just feel like there is not that level of advocacy so much anymore. Everyone's kind of just doing these little shows, and I realize the irony of saying this as I stream with you on the internet, where they're like talking about stuff, but there's like, for me, like, this is war. This is real. This is serious, but this is some Zach Hill like serious business. Like, I'm completely like, with this show, with playing music myself, it is so important to me. Music is way too important to be relegated to the background for me.
And that's what is happening for.
Yes.
Not only is it being relegated to the background, but like it's being pushed so you are not supposed to inquire or know what it is. Like on the weekend with mom, on the car weekend ride with mom.
Oh yeah, that playlist. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a playlist, and you're not like you're not supposed to look and say, well, but again, I'm telling you, that goes back to this bizarre non-identity thing where we used to thrive on our identity by what is that? Who wrote that? And let me listen to it, and I know it now, and now I know it. Like that kind of knowledge was important. And I don't understand.
And it wasn't easy to come by. You couldn't just go on like Wikipedia and learn everything about a band and then listen to their entire discography and then be over it the next day.
But I guess that's why. Because then it was cool and it took a long time to find and then be proud of. And still nobody knew about it then. And still only like a certain amount of people liked it. And that's why it was unique.
But I think there is a cross-section of that. For sure, but there's also like people that are younger get into some bands that in the 90s were, we'll charitably say, not very popular, but they treat them as if like they had been. Yeah, the example I always use is like there's a bunch of, when I ran around and like talking like younger kids, that they behave as if Carp was like as big as Smashing Pumpkins, and it's like, I assure you they were not. That is not true. There's no part about that that's true. Yeah, because like. And Unwound is a perfect example that, like, the legend only has grown. And so then they're back and playing these shows. And it's great because this whole new generation gets to experience Unwound.
Unwound was not popular.
But Unwound was not popular. Exactly. It was
underground.
It was punk rock popular, sure. But, like, I mean, like, whatever. Like, but it's... So what I try to do, because I try to be... As judgmental as that can be, I try to be more curious about stuff. Where I'm like, well, why? Okay, so what is different here? And I don't have the answer for this. I'm just saying that stuff that I've observed. Why have some of these things kind of bubbled up and some haven't? I mean, one can say like, well, those things are great. I'm like, sure, but there's lots of great stuff that dies on the vine.
Yeah.
And like I said, the weird thing to me is that a whole era of music, which is basically the 2000s, seem to have basically been redacted except for like the stuff that was huge. And I don't get it at all.
I think because it's too close to... Maybe in 10 years or maybe, right?
I guess there's this big 90s revival, right? So we'll have an aughts revival?
Because all the kids are into the 90s because they were kids in the 90s. Once the kids who were kids in the aughts get older.
Wow, you might be onto something that like...
Yeah, and style, which I don't even know what it was. What was the aughts style?
I don't know, man. Yeah, all I know is I finally started dressing better. That's
Yeah.
that's all I got. I got
Yeah.
nothing other than that. But no, it's interesting, like what gets over and what doesn't. I think that and with your music, for me, from an outsider, from a person not making it, but who's listening and engaging with it, it always sounded a little out of time, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to King Crimson, right? Like
Yeah.
you unless you're a total nerd about King Crimson, which I more or less am. I watched a documentary, right? But like any of their records, it could be, I don't know, is this from the 60s, from the 70s, unless it's like production techniques, you're not really going to know.
That's what I like. I like
Yeah.
when it's not, when you can't, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's good. And so again, I remember getting the self-titled record and be like, oh wow, like this is like the big rock record, you know, in some ways, which is not that like it was.
Yes, totally. Yes. And different producer, so different ideas and different,
The sound was a little different,
sound
right?
was different, recording studio was different. It was all of that was different. A lot of softer tapping, was like a lot of reverb on it and softer edges, kind of mixed with like the classic rock.
And it was more, and not the other records weren't, but it was more song focused.
Yes,
is what it seemed like.
Yes, and it was very personal. Like yes, so I think that's why. I mean, honestly, one of the shitty parts about having kids and being happy is that you really are less angry and less.
You need some material, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Otherwise, you're never going to get on that, making sandwiches with mom playlist or whatever it is.
Yeah, my shit is like, this is what I've learned in the past month, that if you can't be categorized, you're basically screwed. Like with the algorithm, like if you can't be put into a category, you're just sort of thrown away because it doesn't work.
Can I tell you, I had Greg Picciotto on from, he's done a lot of stuff, but like he's most known as the singer for Dillinger Escape Plan that, was after Patton.
Yeah.
That brief period of Patton. Obviously amazing vocalist, great. He put out this awesome record. It's rad, but it's genre-wise all over the place.
Yeah.
And like he was talking on this show, whenever that was, I don't know, a year and a half ago, something along those lines, about just how like, no, they want to put you in like one, like if it's a record shop, right, they're putting you in one bin.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, well, but there's a song that sounds like the Jesus and Mary chain on there.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't sound like Dillinger Escape Plan at all. Like someone would be like, is this the right band? Is this?
And this is the whole problem right now with our world, is that it just has to not only go into a category, but quickly put it in the category, put it over there. Okay, great. Now, next, like you were saying.
Quick to judgment. Yes. And I mean, look, some of my favorite records, like first time I've heard it, I'm like, I'm not sure if I like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me like listen back to it again. I'm like, oh wait, it's great. It's a genius.
Yes. Like Mary Timony is in this band X Hex, and there's a record.
X Hex is great. Yeah.
It's so great. And like one of the records I listened to a bunch of years ago a lot, and I liked it. And then we were listening to it in the car coming back from the shows, and I was like, my God, it's so 80s. I love it. It's so 80s rock. And I was like, why didn't I think it was 80s rock a few years ago? And I was like, I guess I just didn't. But, you get different experiences listening to things at different times. But with so much content, like you were saying, if you don't go back,
if you're not spending time with it. Then
that's also why all those songs we hear that are the classic songs are classic for a reason, because we've been hearing them forever. Right. If you don't repeat and keep listening to songs, how do you build the nostalgia with them? You can't.
Yeah, when you hear that, and you're like, but you know that because you've heard it a bazillion times on like whatever your local classic rock station was.
I know.
And then they have like Red Hot Chili Peppers on the classic rock stations now, which is like, what do you? And it's
my God, they have Red Hot Chili Peppers. They have Pearl Jam. They have And they have Whitesnake, which is like, but soft rock Whitesnake, which is like,
Yeah, that's surprising. Again, that goes back to the what makes it through, what doesn't. There's been the whole rehabilitation of Stone Temple Pilots I've noticed that's happened the past couple
I've
years.
noticed that too.
Where I'm like,
Totally.
like I'm like, I don't need to have an opinion about this, but
I know.
I
But
kind of
also,
want to.
but also, I bet no one knows who they are who's young now.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like it just seems like you get another shot, you get another bite at the apple if you've achieved a certain level of fame, is what it seems like to me.
Huh.
And that is probably the grossest possible outcome.
Like,
I
you
can
mean
think
like
of.
collective soul? Like,
I haven't heard them be re-examined, but weirdly, if you do that, yeah, people know what that is. People know what that is. And I'm like, how do you
no,
know
they
that?
don't.
How do you know that?
No, they don't.
Marnie, I am freaking telling
No,
you.
they don't. We know what that is. They do not know.
I did it exclusively for the delight of my bass player who was standing next to me, and 3 kids started doing it too. I'm like, how do you know what that is? How? Please tell me how you know that. Actually, you know what? Don't. Never mind.
Maybe from comedy. Yeah.
Because it is fucking.
Yeah.
It is one of the all-time. I think I'm just gonna go, girl.
Yeah.
Just do a little Jarl there, you know.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Yeah.
whatever. Why are we talking about this? Yeah, okay, so all right. Self-titled record, heavy emphasis on the songs. I mean, it starts off with For Ash. That's a heavy song,
Yeah.
just in general.
Yeah.
Aspects of the Who, stuff like that. But it's your thing. It's. I feel like that's like there's a real from an outside perspective, a real good plateau that you were on at that point.
Mm-hmm. And at that point I was like so all in. I would just stay up all night, where I was on a terrible schedule where I just stayed up all night working. No, it was even weirder. I got up at 3 a.m, would exercise, go to 7-Eleven, get my coffee, work all night till like 10 a.m, have a beer at like 10 a.m, go to bed, sleep till 3 a.m, and I couldn't get off of this weird schedule. And I wrote that whole record in that weird time space. But I had a roommate who like went to work every day in the morning, and he was like
doing regular person stuff.
Yeah, and like he'd see me, and he was like, "Dude, you need to like figure your shit out." I was like, "Okay, yeah."
And then it's almost like more daunting when like the results are good too. And you're
I
like,
know.
"Oh, do I?
Yeah, do I? Right. I was like, "Come listen to this." Do I?
Yeah. You sure about that? Yeah.
Totally. Yes. Yes.
That is really funny. But yeah, like that there is something that's kind of isolating with creating that way, right? When you're against like the quote unquote natural rhythm of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like once they do this daylight savings time stuff where it goes one way or the other, I'm always screwed up for at least a solid like month afterwards.
Me too.
But then like it's I feel like, you know, all the people that are like, "Oh, day's half over." And it's like, "Oh, well, I just got up. I don't know what to tell you."
Exactly. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah.
Thanks. Do I owe you extra for the judgment, or
Yeah.
is that gratis?
Yeah.
How about Chronicles, which as we established canonically is one of the best album titles of all time?
So Chronicles was more like, okay, let's just try and have fun. The self-titled was so serious and like personal. I'm just gonna try and make some fun stuff, and that's like what that record was, and it was like received pretty well. I toured it a lot. I had a lot of fun. I was in Europe. I was all over the place. It was right when I got back from that tour, a few months later from Europe, finishing up touring that record, that I got Late Night. So I went straight from that into Late Night, and then spent that whole time at Late Night, and then like finished that and was like, okay, well, it's kind of now or never. I got to get back into this if I want to do it. And the 8G stuff, it's crazy because I really wasn't allowed to put my imprint on 8G. That
It's almost if it's too distinct sounding, then you're doing a bad job.
right. So when I got home, so then when I started working on this stuff, I was like, the weirder the better. The weirder the like, it felt so good to just let my freak flag fly. You know what I mean? Like, and do all my weird, noisy stuff. And, you know, there was no like right way or wrong way. It was just have fun and be punk, and who cares?
It sounds like a very comfortable record. Like, it sounds like you're very like you could have AC/DC did a little bit, which is to say that you could have knocked out like 2 or 3 more just like that, and people would have been stoked. But you know, would have been creatively fulfilling? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know.
It was kind of more, I felt more punky, kind of, especially coming from that like groomed, very like nice environment of music where all I basically did was this, like strum for some chords for 10 years, 8 years, whatever it was. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to be more weird.
Well, there's a lot of energy to it. There's a lot of pickup to it. Some go-go.
Yeah. Some go-go. Yeah. And I'm very happy with it. I feel like I'm shocked that I've done 5 records.
I guess so. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. This will be the 5th record. Yeah. Right.
That's a lot.
Nice.
So
there should be a club. And you the 5 record club,
like the SNL 5-time
right?
host.
Exactly like that. Yeah. But the criteria is 5 records, and none of them suck.
Yeah, or sell.
So there you go. Now we're making it much more exclusive.
Yeah.
Get out of here, Fugazi.
Yeah. Totally.
So why don't we? All right. So and that's kind of brings it back around to where we started with HE. But I want to get into this record. Are you cool to go through it like song by song and talk about each one? This is sort of isn't like you got to give away the store or nothing. It's just you know, we can you know, it could be as simple as like where the title came from, anything you remember from recording with it, song lyrics, yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. Yada yada, such a great phrase, by the way. Yada yada.
Yada yada.
Cool. All right. Well, let me put it on screen so I don't have to look over like an idiot at something that is nowhere near me. So this is The Comeback Kid, Plain Speak, first song.
Okay. So Plain Speak, can't keep moving backwards. It's just kept coming up over and over, like especially when you just feel a little bit like you're in the kind of just working as part of a machine for a long time, and you're not really moving forward with stuff, and also frustration with the kids when they're babies. My God, just let's get it together, little infants. Let's go.
Get it together, children. Get it together.
Yeah, and just in general, there's so much of that where you're just trying to push yourself forward and you just feel like you take like 4 steps backward. So that one is like pretty literal.
That's got a classic, what I would call a Marnie mantra.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Which is good. I always appreciate that. I find it relatable.
Yeah, thank you. So Believing is Seeing was more one of the weirder ones where I was trying to like build layers of sound or kind of show and have the listeners hear what it sounds like to make a song kind of where you can have one part that is jarring or uncomfortable, but if you put a bunch of other shit on top of it, it sounds better.
Lots of weird stuff happening all the time, right?
Yes.
As we've established.
Yes. The Natural was based on the movie The Natural.
I was going to ask if it was based on the movie The Rocks.
Which nobody knows that movie, so
what? No
one besides you and John Ganelli, the guitarist, have.
It's got fucking Robert Redford in it.
Well, it's not known to other people.
Okay.
So,
actually, isn't Robert Duvall in that? Actually, isn't Glenn Close in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Geez, I mean, it's like star-studded.
Kim Basinger, yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Anyway,
yes.
I love these sports movies where like the hero can't do it, and then in the end he like wins. That's why I love Rocky. I love this movie.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love when the person comes back at all odds, and they play this music that when he's up at bat.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that is kind of where that song came from.
That's an interesting one too, because that is a, I guess, lesser known movie in the pantheon of like the go get him, like Rocky and all that. I mean, I love all that stuff too. That's extremely my business.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's weird that people don't know The Natural. I feel like that would be due for a resurgence. But.
Well, so crazy that he was 39 or 40 and he was over the hill. But I think
oh my God.
he must have been have been way older when he made it, because he did not look.
I mean, yeah, but also, yeah, that guy kind of looked the same for like a long time, and then boom, looked old overnight. I was like, oh, okay.
Totally. Yes.
My dad's the same way, so one can hope that's probably going to happen to me. I'll just basically look the same, and then suddenly be an old guy.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
I think like Matt Damon falls into that category where he's looked pretty great, and all of a sudden he's looking different.
It's like, all right.
Okay, Are They
yes.
was me trying to play with time signatures, and Are They is from the title of Rushmore, or not?
Yeah.
Rushmore?
Yeah.
Is that the movie?
Oh, these are OR Scrubs.
Are they?
Yeah. That's Peace and Love. That's my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
So funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was playing with like time signatures and trying to, for me, like one of the hardest things is singing on top of weird guitar parts. So
yeah, it's because it's completely counter to what's being played. Yeah.
So a lot of these songs were me doing that. So so that was one of them. The next one forward is like was just like a bluesy song that I had for a long time and was working on for a long time.
Do you ever, when you're writing, are you someone that writes on acoustic at all, or are you?
No, always on the computer with the electric. Do
you have any amp? Like, do you do the fake amp thing?
Yes.
On there?
Yeah. The plugins. Yeah.
Yeah. AKA fake amps, right?
Fake amps. That's right.
That's what I call them.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so working memory.
Can I say low key one of my favorites on the record, by the way?
Thank you. This. Yes, this is a. Is this Someone in the Street on Fire all day, all day? Is that this one?
It's got the big chords.
I think that this one was about the kids and being in the car with them while they both were infants and screaming and crying, and that is where
fantastic
that one came from. The next one is a cover by Ennio Morricone, who my friend Josh Fadem, who's a very funny comedian, a long time ago sent me like a mix CD, and this song was on it. And the original was like right up my alley because there are all these female weird voices going on. And it was just really so, he did all these Westerns with just such weird music. And so then I was like, okay, I'll take a shot at covering this. And that's what that was.
Yeah. And that's, for people that are not well versed in their soundtrack artists, Good, Bad, and the Ugly,
yes,
for a few dollars more, like all of the classic spaghetti westerns.
Westerns.
Sergio Leone doing the directing and Morricone doing the composing. He did other stuff as well, but that's kind of like the big like.
But he was really good.
Oh yes, yeah. I used to have a cassette. Of
you
the
did?
scores that I would listen to on the way to work. Yes, I did.
That's so cool. That's so funny. Okay, Till It's Over is like a slow song for me.
Mhm.
And I wrote it on the bass. Somebody from Terra Mellos after our tour gave me a bass that was older. And I thought, every day when I sit down, like you tend to go towards the same place, or I do. And it's just like, oh, I've done this a million times. Oh, this sounds like everything I've ever done. Oh, this just sounds the same. And so I was like, well, maybe if I try with the bass, I could kind of like do something different, or it could sound a little different. And so that's how that song happened.
I think I want to say one of the last times I saw you, I think was with Terra Mellos.
Yeah,
Is that right? Am I remembering that right? I don't know.
maybe.
It would have been a
No,
while ago, but-
maybe 2012,
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
2013, maybe.
You know what? Nobody cares, including me. It's fine.
So that's how I wrote that, like with the bass line, and then kind of like pieced parts together and tried different singing over it, and then all of a sudden I have that one.
There you go.
Nested was one that I had been working on again, like forward for a really long time, and I had all these different versions of it, and I kept sending it to like Ben Parrish, who I work with, and it was like a trusted friend who worked at Kill Rock Stars and Joyful Noise, and he's good taste in music, and I kept sending versions like this version, and so I finally finished that and came up with a version.
Yeah, Ben's rad. He's a good egg. Good
Really,
egg.
really, like very good music ear, that guy. Earth Eater. Oh, all these last three were me trying to put vocals to weird kind of mathy guitar parts that
There's some pretty active stuff in there. Yeah.
Yes, that could work. Like, it's so hard for me to get things to work that for those last three, I spent a long time just being like, like Mama say Mama Sa Mama Pizza, like a million different things. Like even turning it off and thinking of another song and singing random ways, because all I can hear when I do it is the thing I'm playing. It's very hard for me to get away from the notes of the thing I'm playing and find a melody away from it. So
right, where it's not following something the guitar's doing,
yes,
or something that
exactly. And I feel like that was on this record. A lot of these songs were me really trying to, because like part of my thing always when I listened to Hella and all these noise bands was, well, I love all this stuff, but I want to turn them into a song. Like I want to have singing over them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
I do know what you mean.
So
yes, yes I do.
So this was a lot of me trying to do that.
Very good. So
Yeah.
and that's
Those are the last three.
Earth Eater, Get a
Get
Good, and One and the Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. No, that's right. It's a great record. Like
Thank
you should.
you.
I hope you're. Are you happy with it? Are you stoked about it?
I mean, I'm never
never unhappy.
I never
Sorry.
feel like I did it, because if I felt like I did, like really killed it, I would be saying it. Like I got on that Rolling Stone Best Guitarist list.
Oh yeah.
As a number 188. And
Yeah.
my God, I have never been more proud of anything in my life.
Did you get like a million text messages from like everyone you know?
Zero. And I showed in my, just telling everybody, I showed everyone in my hood, like all the mom friends that I have, the doorman, like, no, everyone was like, that's nice. Good for you. And I'm like, no, this is like, don't placate me. You're supposed to be impressed with this. But
this is not something that like I go around like showing to my greengrocer normally.
Right.
Yeah.
But I did. I was like, hello, greengrocer. Look at this.
Yeah, check it out.
I mean, no.
Oh.
But yeah, everyone, my kids.
I would have texted you. I'd have been like, "Oh, nice work."
My kids are like, number 188. I'm like, no, but do you know what it means? They're like, no. So I was very, 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 I am very proud of that. But like the records, there are a couple songs like Transformer, I feel like is very close to, you know, what I would want to, you know, the sound I would want to put forth as me in a song form. But I'm still working on it. I still got to get there.
Well, and in the doing of it, even, you know, one can never truly achieve perfection. It is the level of failure of trying, right?
That's right. But you gotta keep going.
But you got to be in it to win it. To misappropriate it something else.
Yeah, totally. You gotta.
I think that's the lottery, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be in it to win it. Yes. Yeah.
Like a cultural magpie over here. Killing it in the reference game.
Yeah.
So what do you got? What do you got coming up with this record? Come back in. You played these shows; they're great. So more of them.
More shows. I'm playing Tree Fort Festival.
Hell yeah, in Boise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Announcing
nice.
a tour around that in a couple days, and then probably some summer dates, and then some more fall dates, and you know, I've been doing a lot of covers, thinking about that world, and so that's what I'm doing.
Hell yeah! Well, I dearly hope that I get to see you play because
I'll be around.
It's been a while. There's a couple things from the chat that I've been ignoring the entire time. Television, Royal Trucks, and Talking Heads.
Yes. All my influences.
Yeah. Those are good. Those are good ones.
Good ones. Royal Trucks, man. That's another, like when you were saying it doesn't sound like, it really does not feel dated. Like no matter when I listen to Royal Trucks, it still sounds very
sounds like 2023 or 1973 or 1983.
It's its own thing. It's totally its own thing.
I love that they could be like the best rock and roll band in the world or the worst rock and roll band in the world, depending on the show.
That's right. Totally true.
Same thing with the Guided by Voices, you know.
Yes.
I love them too, but it's like,
and also I think
that's
also why people like the Shags so much. Like,
yeah, it just feels like it could come apart at any second.
Come apart at any second. But I love that.
It's so good.
Yeah, I know. But a lot of people don't get that. Like, kind of like White Stripes with Meg White as drummer. Like, I don't think people understand why that's interesting. Like,
yeah, like the rest of his band, that guy's bands, like, don't hit for me at all.
No.
But it's like, the thing about the White Stripes, it does kind of feel like it could kind of just, the wheel could like spin off.
Yes. And also, like, if you have someone who's like technically proficient in every way, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm not interested in like, like perfect voice, perfect instrument, perfect. Yeah. That's not fun.
Oh yeah, that's like absolutely. It's almost like, yeah. So perfect example, like, you know, if you're dealing with someone who's like a really great singer, like this is why I don't produce records, I guess. Cause like, yeah, we gotta fuck that up. That's too clean. That's this isn't Pavarotti. What do you think you're doing here?
I agree 100%. I agree. I'm not interested in that. That doesn't move me in any way.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? But that's me. I mean, a lot of people want that, I guess.
I guess. Do you think so, or is it that they've been trained with all these fakakta singing shows?
Yes, I think they've been trained with the singing shows, and also, I prefer the feelings that the offness brings me, as opposed to the nothingness that the right notes bring me. Like, who cares? You've heard nice notes before. It doesn't do it's. If it was the first time anyone had ever hit the right note, maybe I'd be like, oh,
like, oh, that sounds pretty good.
That's pretty.
What do you call that? Oh, we call it a note. Oh, okay, cool. Well, yeah, but you have this like music that's very consonant, but it's dangerous. It's fundamentally dangerous.
Right.
And I'm not saying everything needs to be like Gigi Allen or something. Like there's the other
like,
end of it.
Imagine bringing Gigi Allen to today.
onto like
Imagine
one of
it.
these shows.
Or just like put him on The Voice for some
Yeah,
performance
exactly.
part.
We'll see how this shakes. It ain't gonna be boring. I'll tell you that much.
He died doing performance, doing a
Okay.
state on. Yeah.
I mean,
Now
he
that
died
was-
doing what he loved.
That would not happen today. Now that's
No,
some serious shit.
No,
Yeah.
that was indeed some serious shit, Marnie
That's
Stern.
punk rock. Yeah.
That was, and it's too bad that like all of the songs are ear cancer because obviously cultural shorthand for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Marnie Stern, it is so great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. So
Please.
much.
You're welcome on this show anytime.
Terrific.
Anytime you want to come on, you are welcome. Doesn't have to be for new record. It can just be a BS about what's the deal with these Spotify algorithms. Like whatever, whatever you feel so inclined. You have a home here always. I'm a big fan of what you do.
Thank you so much.
So last thing, the last thing I do on the show. It's the only canned question that I ever ask,
Yeah.
and you can choose to interpret it however you like. So why do you do what you do?
Well, it chooses. I mean, I didn't really choose it. It kind of. I found it and I can't let go. That's my answer. I can't get away from it. I can't leave it, and it makes me so happy.
Makes a lot of the rest of us happy too. So thanks.
Thank you.
And thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
There she goes. Marnie Stern, Comeback Kid is the record. Go get that. Joyful Noise. MarnieStern.bandcamp.com. And then all of these various Fakaktis streaming services where all this stuff happens. And let's hear one of the songs right now. This is Working Memory. All right. That was a little Marnie Stern for you off of The Comeback Kid. Where's the freaking thing here? Hold on. That was a little song called Working Memory off The Comeback Kid. Go get that Marnie Stern, Bandcamp.com, or Joyful Noise, wherever records are sold, or, you know, wherever you can stream stuff for free, for whatever. Just let people know. It's nice to have her back. It's nice to have Marnie back. And it's a great record. And you'll hear more about that soon because I'm doing the best records of the year. That's all I'm going to say. Name of the show is Conan, Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so very much for listening to it. This show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming on YouTube and Twitch. Podcasted later everywhere. Archives always free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. ProtonicReversal.com. Now, if you like the show and want to get episodes sooner and help support the show, $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will achieve that goal. And thanks to everyone for liking the show, subscribing on your platform of choice, sharing around. All that helps people discover the show. Beats back the algorithm. It's just a darn nice thing to do, really.
Anyone within the sound of my voice.
Lots of cool stuff coming up. No show next week because of the holiday, but there's going to be a bunch more coming up. I'm looking for it. So just FYI.
50,000 watts of power.
Thanks for listening, as always. It's always appreciated.
I want to ionize the air.
And, yeah. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy. Tell a friend of me.
This microphone.
As always, stay safe out there.
Into electricity. Can you hear me now?
And check you later.
Out on Route 128, in the dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last watt leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,